Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we've got the play props here for you on a Wednesday, 9 games in the NBA. So plenty to choose from here. We've got 4 looks for you on the player prop side. Also have another episode up with best bets with some sides and totals for you. So make sure to subscribe to that channel and continue to follow along all season. Also want you to hit up that link in the description of the video right below us here. You can see we've got an email newsletter now coming out every Friday for thelines.com. So you can stay up to date as we gear into a ton of new sports here as we get into the spring, getting ready for baseball. And Nate and I are also getting ready for the NBA playoffs. With every Friday in that email newsletter, we've got our bonus parlay. So we're going to be coming out every Friday with that, an extra pick here that we're not going to be putting in these episodes. So you do got to check out the bonus parlay there in the email newsletter every Friday. 2-0, right? So far on the season, so feeling pretty good. Not to mention 4-0 on the play props last night. So let's keep it going here, Nate, and get into your first look for the day.
Yeah, Quentin Grimes is only 19.5 points here, even money. I don't really understand that. I mean, when you have two teams absolutely tanking in terms of their injury report, I mean, obviously we know the Sixers need to lose to try to protect their draft pick here. So they're not going to play Maxey, PG, EG, Eric Gordon, and Oubre might not go. I don't think that's like a huge hit to Grimes' usage if Oubre's out there. Like, it's helpful to have a little bit of another ball handler and creator, and not just Grimes and Lonnie Walker, who, by the way, if he's open at like 15 or 14 points, like I would just take Lonnie Walker on sheer volume. But this is also a volume play. And the fact that the Raptors mirroring the tank, like I said, no RJ Barrett quickly, no Jacoby Walter or Agbaji on the wing to guard. Maybe Scotty Barnes doesn't play. Maybe they just bench him in the third and fourth quarter like they've been doing so often. The Raptors are almost like, you can't tank like we tanked last year. Like we're not letting you, giving this away to you so you can like preserve your future. I could see how they try to lose this game. Like I was looking at this initially. It's like Raptors -3.5. Like Sixers really need to lose, but like I think it's going to be a race to the bottom. In any case, Grimes can have all the shots he wants. He has in his last 5, 25 points a game, 4.4 assists too, and weirdly, books are adding only the 4 assists if you go 23.5 here instead of, 4.5, which is his core line. So if you want to combine them, that sounds good as well. He does lead the team in passes in March with 10.7 potential assists. That includes a couple games with Maxey and one with PG. So now you look at his last game, he took 25 shots, 25 field goal attempts to get 35 points, pretty efficient, 35, 7 and 5. It's just him and Lonnie Walker. He's taken 74 shots in 4 of his last 5 here. The one under we have was against Boston, which just shut people down. Otherwise, he's averaging 30 a game. So I just 20 points seems too low.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, it's a weird insult to Quentin Grimes that they're like, we're trying to lose, so it's your world, Quentin. You know what I mean? Like that's their tank job, is like, we have one legitimate basketball player in the NBA on the court outside of, I guess, Lonnie Walker, just microwave scorer. But like, I was watching that last game because I didn't have anything in it. I was just watching it going down the stretch being like, good Lord, Quentin Grimes is just shooting every time. And then it made sense. I was looking at the game and I was like, Quentin Grimes is on the floor looking around and going, Adem Bona, Jeff Edwards, Downton, Justin Edwards, like, why would I pass to any of these guys? He doesn't know who they are. I don't know who they are. So like, yeah, it's just going to be shots after shot after shot. If Kelly's out there, maybe you add the assist because at least he looks across the court and goes, wow, okay, I can pass it to Kelly Oubre. He can make a shot. But like, other than that, I think you just leave it on the points. Like you said, maybe some PRA if Kelly Oubre is out there. But yeah, this is going to be a weird game, and I'm not touching Toronto player props because, yeah, like you said, if they're close and winning, Scotty Barnes probably doesn't play at the end, and now they're going to be starting guys like Lawson and Shed, and it's just, we'll see what happens next season. But let's go to a better game. Let's get to the Suns game here. I'm going to take Brad Beal in this one against the Rockets. I think you can play this 2 ways, and I'm going to play both these bets and probably parlay them as well. But under 4.5 assists, over 14.5 points. I would take this at 15.5. It's probably bumped up on a couple places there. So wherever you can get this stuff for Brad Beal, you're going to get a nice negative correlated parlay if you take the under on the assists and over on the points. But this is strictly me looking at who's going to be guarding who and going, this is Brad Beal's world, right? So the way that I see this going, and if you want to look at past results, like they played one game, he played the Rockets, I believe it was last season, because this season, in the one game these two teams faced off, it was KD and the boys, and Booker and Beal and everybody else was out, right? So KD went clean off. But for Beal last season, it's like 20 minutes. They lost pretty bad to the Rockets last season, so he didn't really get the time. I think he was still coming back from injury. It's not about the fact that the Rockets are good against spot up shooting, because on paper, this is not a good matchup for Beal in terms of team defense versus his play style. He's normally playing off ball when he's out there with Booker and KD, and then he's spotting up, and that's how he's scoring the majority of his points. But that's not going to be how this goes, because that's not like they're not necessarily the way that this is going to work. Is I think you see Brad Beal with Fred VanVleet on him, and you go, well, I'm Booker, I've got Jalen Green on me, KD's got Villain Brooks on him. The matchup here is Brad Beal versus Fred VanVleet, right? So you give him the ball in the wing one-on-one, because you know that the Rockets don't help off guys. They don't double team. So it's his world. Once they just get him into space, he's going to go. He's been taking at least 15 shots in this torrid pace that he's had over the last like 15 games, where he's consistently getting 20 plus on the points. Like, this is so low because they're over accounting for how Houston plays defense, with the assumption that Brad Beal is going to just be off ball waiting for spot up shots when Devin Booker drives. And it's not the case. Like, he's going to be getting the one-on-one looks. So I love his matchup more than anything. Like I said, in these last like 15 games for him, he's been going clean off, and they've been allowing him to, as Booker has upped his assists and notched down his attempts since basically like the end of January. And every time Beal's on the court, he's good at this point for the 15.
Yeah, I found it interesting looking at Booker's splits against Udoka's Rockets that he's only at 3.3 assists per game in the last three. So yeah, I mean, the same kind of things where they're just limiting these dudes. That's what Udoka's defense does. So Booker has not scored efficiently either. So I could see how Bradley Beal picks it up in that regard with no Amon Thompson out there to switch on to either of those guys. So
yeah,
I mean, maybe we hit both again after James Harden goes nuts on the assist last night. That was nice cash. Just barely stayed under the points.
He did stay under the points, which was great. And we should add, this is that type of situation with Brad Beal and Booker, like you're saying, where like it's just going to be the one-on-one stuff. And at a numbers perspective, Beal's at 18.5 points per game in his last 20 this season with KD, with Booker. 20 points per game, and we're getting 15, right, that he needs to hit. So it's really mostly about this number just being too low for a guy because they're over accounting for situations that I don't think are going to occur. So
yeah, and part of the reason I like over for the game is like the Suns undervalued a little offensively because things were so weird for them approaching the trade deadline and immediately after it. But now they're just like, all right, let's go out there and get our points and not play any defense, apparently. Speaking of no defense, the New York Knicks are in Portland, and I'm actually just taking the rebounds and assists, though, with Denny Avdia. 11.5 is just damn low, man. I mean, you can get 29.5 PRA as well. He should have a pretty big game. But you look at his last 5 with full minutes, he's averaging 16 RA, slightly over that. He's the number 1 creator in terms of passes, potential assists for this team. He is second right behind Klingon in rebound chances with a higher rebounding rate since the All-Star break. Basically, the only thing that's slowed him down is if he gets benched for some really unknown reason by Billups, or, he got injured. He only played 23 minutes at Boston. Otherwise, his last 4 without Jeremy Grant, who's out tonight, doubtful at least, 21, 10, and 5.5. His last 2 against contenders, Cleveland and Warriors, he just goes nuts. 32, 14, and 8, 20 for 20 at the free throw line. Like, this dude is ready for big time. And the Knicks are enough, to get your blood boiling. If you're Portland, they are very vulnerable to rebounding wings, right? Just based on their style, and give up the 7th most defensive rebounds overall since the All-Star break. That offense is probably going to take a little bit of a step back as we get a larger sample without Jalen Brunson affording more defensive rebounding opportunities, and they're not particularly good boxing out, like I said, on these big wings like Avdia, who can get in there. And otherwise, the assists should be there against a team that's really bad guarding the three as well in New York, and is on a long road trip here. But overall, like I'm fine if New York. The fact that New York's a good team, because what I've seen at Avdia lately is he's like, look, I'm the best player here for Portland, and I can fill it up against these good teams.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, I love this. It is really, really low. Maybe the Knicks better at rebounding. I don't have a good reason for it, especially with Grant going to be out there. I guess like his matchup will probably be OG, but yeah, not worried about that. You're not even adding the points, so there's really nothing to really like worry about in this one. Don't know what I would be overlooking, but I definitely think I'm tailing you on this one. Let me close it out with Ja. I think Ja's like back. Like I think he's back. I'm not saying he's not going to sit out a random game here down the stretch, but this Memphis team is clearly trying to win. His last 3 games now, he's playing at least 35 minutes in each of them, 35, 37, 38 against, teams, not good ones, but some teams, but he doesn't have Triple J. And as a result, like it's really just like his world. I mean, his world and Desmond Bane's world. But it's just them controlling the usage of the game the whole time. If he's going to get those kind of minutes against Utah, then like I'm in, man. And I do think he's going to have Colin Sexton on him. That'll be his primary defender in this game. Keontae George also just got ruled out. So you're going to see, there's going to be some mismatches for Memphis in this one. When you look at guys like Isaiah Collier and Colin Sexton, maybe some Johnny Juzang. We're not sure about Lowry, not exactly a plus on defense either. There's going to be some opportunities. Utah's the worst transition defense in the league. And there's a really, really cool tool on this product called propsmadness.com if you want to check it out. Props Madness, it is like a $20 a month subscription. I think you can get some player props if you don't even like that aren't behind a paywall. You can just kind of check them out. But it's a really good research tool that was showing me an assist map. And I can see on the season where Ja's getting the majority of his assists, as well as where the Jazz are giving up the majority of their assists. Newsflash, it's everywhere for the Jazz, so it's not like there's a part of the floor where there's like a really, they're limiting the points or assists in this part of the floor. But in transition, giving up the most assists per game in transition, the most points per game in transition, and that's where you're going to see Ja getting a lot of that stuff. You also look at, like I said, his assist map, and if you look at down low and into the wings, really the above the break and below, like the corners or above the break, he's just spraying it out there. So he's either hitting somebody like, I would love for Brandon Clark to be available in this game because he's just going to be getting lobs at the rim all day behind Walker Kessler, who's going to come up and try to block shots. So I mean, he is playing in this game as well, right? Like this is tailor-made for Ja to just be living in the lane and then just diming every which way, Magic Johnson, that kind of style. So I think we're going to have a good Ja game in this one for at least eight dimes.
Yeah, I think you're targeting like the fun-loving Ja who's just spraying the ball around rather than somebody who's going to need to go for like 25 and 8 in order to get the points in there, because this is a blowout potential for sure with the Jazz. We do at least know they're playing Collins and Walker Kessler, right? So
yeah,
that will force Ja to not just dunk on people and go right to the rim like he was doing against Phoenix, and he also got a ton of assists. So yeah, he'll have to kick it out, and hopefully Memphis guys can knock down these potential assists. And the Jazz might hang around. Memphis hasn't really blown out anybody in a while, and certainly not with Triple J. So I could see this one still being close somehow.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say too, is like he just played like 37 minutes against Dallas. If he's forced to be out there against Dallas, right, without Triple J, without Santi Aldama as well, like this team isn't going to be the same until they get those guys back, especially with both bigs, the rest of their bigs, Edey and Clark, questionable after both of them missed their last game. But we'll see what happens. They probably didn't need him quite as much in that last one as they will in this one. So that's all the time that we have for you, though, in Play at Props. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that channel so you don't miss any of the stuff we're bringing you, including the best bets in the other episode. And until we see you next, happy betting.